few months ago, Apple released the Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro, and it kind of set the world of tech on fire, at least for a few weeks. But now that the hype has kind of gone down, other companies have stepped up to the plate and challenged the Magic Keyboard. And so on this episode, what we're going to try to find out is how much keyboard you actually get at a cheaper price point. Obviously, I think the best way to start this video would be to start with the Magic Keyboard itself. And so just very quickly, let me talk about the things that you actually get for $300-ish, if I'm not mistaken. It's really no secret that this is a very good keyboard. Personally, I think the keys feel a lot better than my own MacBook Pro. The integration is basically seamless, and the fact that you can just pop it off like that and put it back on with ease kind of sells itself. It makes you feel like you are actually using a laptop instead of a tablet. That said, it does come with some disadvantages, and one is the price, obviously, and the next is this material that they chose, this rubbery thing. I'm still not a big fan of, and just as I have predicted, it's not going to age well. Although I may have my own complaints about the way you open this, it still is the easiest one to open or deploy compared to the other ones that I've tested. Plus, there's really no app that you have to install. It literally is just plug and play. You just put your iPad on it and it's connected. The keys feel very natural. The trackpad itself is amazing, and you can pretty much click on any area of the trackpad itself. Also, the gestures are perfect. 2-finger swipes, 4-finger swipes, basically what I would expect from an Apple product. It really does feel like it's built for this. I am kind of missing some of the shortcut keys that I get on my MacBook Pro. The viewing angle isn't bad. I actually like the range. The only other thing that I would complain about is that you can't fully open it up to use as a tablet. And the only way you use it as a tablet is if you actually pop it off like this, which makes it very vulnerable to damage. So this isn't really a case per se. It's more like it's a keyboard. Literally just a keyboard. It is only a case when you have it closed, and the weight is definitely doubled. Also, if you have the Apple Pencil, you are left with no choice but to just mount it like that. Kind of easy to knock this off. This particular model is for the iPad Pro 12.9 and costs $350 of my own money, but I really like it, so sue me. Up next, we have the brand new FOLIO Touch by Logitech. Now, Logitech is not a stranger to iPad keyboards, because one of the best-selling ones prior to the Magic Keyboard was actually Logitech's FOLIO keyboard, I think is what it's called. This one is similar to that, but this time it's called the FOLIO Touch. The main difference being is that you now actually have a trackpad, just like the Magic Keyboard. And here it is. Off the bat, I'm going to say that I prefer this type of material that they use. Probably looks like it's some sort of fabric, but it's not. It's definitely textured. It doesn't add as much weight, and you can see how much recessed the camera is, that it provides a significant amount of protection to the tablet itself. I also like how they've included this plus and minus buttons right here, so it's easier to locate the volume rocker. They also have this little tab right here so that you can keep it closed, and it also serves as an extra level of security for the Apple Pencil, which is kind of cool. This is magnetic, so this one isn't as easy to open as the Magic Keyboard. However, it's not too bad. You open it up like this and you pull this little tab in the back, which has a hinge right here. You can change the angle just like the Magic Keyboard, but it doesn't have the same range, which might be a problem for some people. The good news is the keys actually feel amazing. Almost as good as the Magic Keyboard. It's also a plug and play, so you don't really have to install an app, although there is an app that accompanies this just to update it. The trackpad itself is awesome, just like the Magic Keyboard, although you cannot click on every section of it. Basically, you can only click in the middle. But it's just as responsive, and gesture controls are just as good. The other thing I do appreciate about this is that they did add a row of shortcut keys at the top, which means you can control the volume, the brightness, or even the light of the keyboard itself. The only problem that I have for the keys themselves is that when you hit the caps lock, it doesn't have a light that indicates whether it's on or off, which sometimes can be annoying. Another huge advantage of this over the Magic Keyboard is its price. This cost $160, which is significantly lower than Apple's Magic Keyboard. However, there are a couple of issues. One is that it takes a significantly wider footprint than the Magic Keyboard. The hinge itself is good because it's not floppy at all. The problem is it's very limited in its range compared to the Magic Keyboard. And deployment, like I mentioned, isn't as easy as Apple's. But probably the biggest flaw of this particular device is that it's only available for the iPad Pro 11. So there's no 12.9 version of this, at least not right now. Other than that, I think it's a very solid substitute for Apple's Magic Keyboard. Personally, I just think it looks a lot nicer. And finally, we have a third option, which came from a Chinese company that reached out to me asking if I would like to try their iPad keyboard thing. I'm having trouble trying to figure out the name of this because even on the email that they sent me, they didn't really have a name. As a matter of fact, they didn't even have a web page for it. They just said that it's going to be on a Kickstarter page, but I checked, it still isn't. And I honestly don't know where you can buy one. At least at the time of the making of this video, I still don't know. All I can say is that this seems so generic that it's actually called the General Leather Keyboard Case. Or maybe it's called the F13. I'm not really sure. Anyway, highlights first. How much does this cost? A whopping $50. At least that's what I was told. So for $50, how much keyboard do we actually get? Let's start with the material that they use. This actually is pretty decent. So it's similar to Logitech's textured material, although it's not as nice. It does feel like it offers some sort of protection. This little tab right here covers the camera, which is kind of nice and not nice at the same time, because what if you want to take pictures? I don't really know who takes pictures using their iPad. And if you're one of those, stop it. And deployment of the case itself is kind of interesting because instead of having like a traditional flap that goes like this, they've opted for this unique folding design. Actually looks pretty interesting, but let's see how it actually works. It has the biggest footprint out of all three, but we can actually fold this, so that's not too bad. So aside from the price being the lowest out of the three and the fair build quality, you get this elastic loop for your Apple Pencil, which is kind of neat. So it keeps your Apple Pencil nice and secure. It's definitely not going to fall out. It's probably the lightest keyboard out of the bunch. The keys themselves are, well, they don't feel that good, to be honest. They're very rubbery. They do work and everything does light up, but they're just not as, the quality is just not as nice. That said though, the keyboard does work fairly well. And when I say fairly well, I have yet to really notice any errors when I'm typing using this. It also gets the shortcut row at the top, just like the Logitech. The trackpad itself is fairly responsive, and you cannot click on any part of it. You can double tap, but you cannot, it's not clickable. For $50, if you think about it, you get a keyboard, which is, I guess, what people want. However, before you make a decision, let's talk about the numerous flaws. First and foremost is the design itself. It's very unique. However, when I first started to open this tends to fold in like this. The second thing is that it is long, and you basically have to fold this in to make the footprint a lot smaller. And this also has the same disadvantage as the Logitech that I forgot to mention, is that the one advantage of having the Apple Magic Keyboard is that because of the design, it's very sturdy, that you can basically put this on your lap and just type away. For both the Logitech and this one, unless you have super wide laps, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. Next is the range. You basically have no range at all. It's just one angle, and that's pretty much it. I mentioned that the trackpad works. However, the gesture controls, some of them work. The 2-finger swipe sometimes work, or the 3 or 4-finger you know what? Never mind. It doesn't work. If you look right here, there is a charging port right there, which means this runs on its own battery. So it's not a plug and play, which is going to be my next point. And this is probably the biggest disadvantage of this, is that it is connected to the iPad via Bluetooth, which also means is that it's not as responsive. So when you first get this, you have to plug it in, make sure it's charged, and then you pair it with the iPad Pro. And then when you open it, it might take a second or two before it actually recognizes it, because it's a Bluetooth connection. This doesn't have a light for the caps lock as well. I just noticed that. The shortcut keys work though. It's a little funky sometimes, but at least from my experience of using this when I'm typing, I've never really had any errors or issues with it thus far. But I mean, let's look at the bright side. You can also open this up completely and use it as a tablet, just like the Logitech. And the fact that you have this little elastic thingy here for the pencil is kind of nice. For 50 bucks, I guess you get a case and a keyboard. Not the best, but you do get a case and a keyboard. For $300, you get the premium full Magic Keyboard experience. It's not perfect, but this is the best performing one with a hefty price tag. For about half the price, you can get something that's kind of a hybrid, the middle ground. Like I said, I prefer the material of this much, much more than the Magic Keyboard. And I do like this little flap, and I think it actually just looks a lot nicer. It offers a lot more protection, and it's just as good and as responsive as the Magic Keyboard. However, it's not going to be as stable when you're using it on your lap, and it takes a bigger footprint overall. The biggest drawback with this is that it's only available for the iPad Pro 11, which is a bummer. I'm not even sure if I'm reviewing a keyboard or a case anymore. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will leave the link to these in the description below, except for this one. Maybe by the time this video is published, I would have a link for this one. If not, I'll just update the link later on. Before I say goodbye, I'd like to invite you to check out my podcast with fellow creative Chelsea Horn, and we call it the Coffee with Creators podcast. It's basically a podcast for content creators by content creators. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Please like this video and consider subscribing, because that helps me out a ton. And as always, I would like to say thank you, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. But until then, stay safe and take care of each other. Thanks. Oh, I guess it's called the F13 or F102.